Hey guys, welcome back to Walking with Empires. Today, I want you to picture something. Go on, close your eyes. It's a beautiful, sunny afternoon in the North American colonies, the year of our Lord, 1750. You're a carpenter, a master of your craft. You're standing alone in your workshop, a cathedral of wood and light. A massive plank of solid oak rests on your workbench. You take up your hand plane, and with a satisfying, you send perfect fragrant curls of wood spiraling onto the floor. The air is thick with the clean, spicy scent of the oak, mingled with the golden aroma of sunshine baking the pine walls of your shop. It's the original ASMR. A moment of pure, unadulterated, artisanal peace. It's a lovely thought, isn't it? The quiet dignity of labor. The simple, authentic life. It's the kind of scene that sells handcrafted cutting boards for $200 on Etsy. Now, open your eyes, because that's all a load of romantic garbage. The reality, as always, is so much worse. That entire fantasy is a lie we tell ourselves because we can't handle the truth of what it meant to be alive back then. You think you'd thrive? You, with your sensitive palate and your ergonomic office chair and your quaint belief in things like germ theory, you wouldn't last a week. But let's not speculate. Let's put you there. Congratulations. You are now a carpenter in a small, dusty town in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. The year is 1750. And yes, the sun is shining. Let's start with that sunshine. It isn't a gentle, benevolent glow filtering through lovingly crafted windows. It's a belligerent, white-hot glare that punches through two small, warped panes of glass on one side of your workshop and a large, open shutter on the other. This isn't open concept living. This is a structural necessity because glass costs a fortune. The light doesn't fill the space. It stabs into it, leaving the corners in a deep, treacherous gloom where spiders the size of your thumb build empires of their own. The sun's primary job today is to turn your workshop from a building into a kiln. The air is hot, not warm, hot. It's thick, heavy, and stagnant. It presses down on you, a physical weight on your shoulders, and it's saturated not with the clean smell of sunshine, but with the cloying, suffocating presence of your own body odor and the wood. Oh, the wood, that oak plank on your bench is real enough. It's a slab of unforgiving, fibrous reality, and you've been fighting with it since sunrise. That sound, that crisp shh, isn't the gentle whisper of a hobbyist. It's the sound of you putting every ounce of your body weight and every screaming sinew in your back and shoulders into forcing a heavy, sharpened block of iron across a surface that does not want to yield. Each push starts in your heels, travels up your leg, torques your spine, and explodes through your arms. It's a full body grunt of a movement. Repeat it 1,000 times, now 2,000. Your lower back is a single, solid knot of pain that radiates a dull, constant fire. Your shoulders feel like they've been tenderized with a mallet. The handle of the wooden plane is not ergonomically designed. It's a lump of wood, worn smooth by the desperate grip of your own hand, and it has rubbed a blister raw on the fleshy part of your palm, right at the base of your thumb. The blister popped an hour ago. Now, it's just an open weeping circle of red that grinds against the wood with every single pass. The pain is sharp, then dull, then sharp again. You don't stop. You can't stop. This is your job. This is your life. There is no sick leave. There are no weekends. There is only the work and the sun, which is your clock, the air. Let's talk more about that fragrant air. Yes, there is the smell of oak, a sharp, almost vanilla-like tang. But it's not the dominant note in this sensory cocktail. The dominant note is dust. Not the gentle dust motes you see dancing in a sunbeam in a photograph. This is a fine, particulate cloud of wood flour that hangs in the air, a permanent fog. You breathe it in. It coats the inside of your nostrils, the back of your throat, the delicate tissues of your lungs. Every few minutes, you hawk and spit a thick, brown gob of phlegm and sawdust onto the floor. The floor, by the way, is just packed earth, and it's already covered in a Jackson Pollock of your previous expectorations. You've had a cough for 3 months. It's a dry, hacking thing that sometimes brings up flecks of blood. You call it the carpenter's curse. A doctor, if there were one you could afford, might call it silicosis. But that word doesn't exist yet, so you just cough and spit and breathe in more of the very thing that's killing you. Because what's the alternative? Starvation? Let's get more personal. Let's take a full inventory of you, the colonial artisan. Start at the top, your hair. It's long because you haven't had time to cut it. It's greasy. It's been washed. When was it last washed? Maybe 2 weeks ago, in a bucket of cold water with a lump of harsh, homemade lye soap that stripped all the oil out and left your scalp feeling tight and itchy. It feels like a dirty animal pelt glued to your head, and there's a good chance you have lice. Not as a rare affliction, but as a constant, low-level companion. You feel a familiar itch behind your ear, and you scratch it with a hand that's covered in grime and sawdust, your fingernails packed with a black crescent of filth. You probably just drove a few thousand bacteria into the broken skin. Good luck with that. Now, your mouth. Oh, your mouth is a horror show. Smile for me. No, on second thought, don't. Your teeth are a collection of yellow and brown stumps, a miniature Stonehenge of decay. You have a constant, low-grade toothache in your upper left molar. It's been there for months. Sometimes it's a dull throb. Sometimes when you accidentally chew on that side, it's a jolt of incandescent agony that makes your eye water. You've been packing it with a bit of clove, which helps for a few minutes, but the rot is deep. You know, actually, it will have to come out. And the man who will do that is the blacksmith. He doesn't have Novocaine. He has a bottle of rum, a dirty pair of pliers, and a strong arm. The procedure will involve you, wide awake, being held down while he braces his foot on the chair and yanks. There's a 50-50 chance he gets the whole tooth. There's an even better chance he shatters it, leaving infected shards in your jaw. Dental hygiene is not a concept. You clean your teeth by chewing on a twig or rubbing them with a coarse cloth and some salt. Your breath, a combination of rotting tooth, stale rum from last night, and the beginnings of scurvy, could knock a buzzard off a garbage wagon. Let's move down. Your clothes. You are wearing a single layer of what was once a linen shirt. It is now more patched than shirt. The fabric is stiff with dried sweat, sawdust, and probably a bit of spilled stew from dinner 3 nights ago. Under your arms, the fabric is stained a permanent rusty yellow. It smells. Oh God, does it smell? It's a sour, acrid stench. The smell of a human body working hard in the heat with no access to deodorant or daily bathing. It's the smell of stale biology. Your breeches are heavy wool. Yes, wool. In the summer heat, They are itchy, they are hot, and they carry the same symphony of personal aromas as your shirt, with the added bass note of the privy you visited this morning. Speaking of which, that's another smell that clings to you, to the whole town. The faint, pervasive odor of human waste. Your privy is a small shed over a pit in your backyard. The smell in summer is a physical force. It wafts, it lingers, it gets into your clothes, your hair, the very wood of your house. There is no escaping it. This is the perfume of 1750. Sweat, rot, wood smoke, and excrement. Breathe it in. That's the smell of authenticity. And what's fueling this magnificent machine of misery? Your diet. For breakfast, you had a bowl of cornmeal mush, boiled with water. Maybe a splash of molasses if it was a good day. For your midday meal, which you ate, standing at your bench, you had a hunk of dry, hard bread and a slice of salt pork. The pork is so salty it makes your tongue curl. It's more salt than pork. It's a vehicle for salt. You chew it, and it has the texture of a leather shoe sole that's been brined for a decade. This is what you eat almost every day. Corn, salted meat, hard bread. Vegetables are a rare treat, usually boiled into a flavorless mush. A piece of fruit is a luxury. You are perpetually, mildly malnourished. You have the dull skin, the slight bleeding of the gums, the constant feeling of being bloated and heavy that comes from a diet devoid of essential nutrients. This isn't the farm-to-table experience. This is the field-to-misery pipeline. And what are you drinking? You have a jug of water from the well out back. It's cool, but it tastes of dirt and minerals and has a faint metallic tang you try to ignore. Is it clean? What is clean? You know that sometimes, after a heavy rain, the water gets cloudy and people in town get the bloody flux, dysentery. They get weak, they cramp, they defecate themselves to death over the course of a week. So, mostly, you drink small beer. It's a weak, low-alcohol beer, brewed because the boiling process kills whatever is living in the water. It doesn't taste good. It's thin, watery, and slightly sour. But it's safe-ish. It's your primary source of hydration. You're living your entire life in a state of mild, constant dehydration and a low-level buzz. Perhaps that's for the best. It's the only way to cope. Let's look around your workshop again, your tools. They are your life. They are worth more than your furniture, more than your clothes. A good set of English steel chisels, a saw, your planes, an auger. This is your capital. You are terrified of them being stolen. You are also terrified of them breaking. A snapped saw blade is a catastrophe. It means weeks of work just to afford a new one, all while you can't take on any sawing jobs. You spend a significant portion of your time not using your tools, but maintaining them. At the end of this grueling day, you won't just go home. You'll have to spend another hour sharpening the blade of the very plane that has been tormenting you all day. You'll get out your whetstone, add a little oil, and with a circular grinding motion, you will slowly, painstakingly bring the edge back to life. Your hands, already aching and raw, will have to perform this delicate, precise operation. It's a Zen-like activity, if Zen was born out of pure economic terror. Let's go back to that oak plank. What are you making? A table? A chest of drawers? Something beautiful and lasting? No, you're making a coffin, and it's a small one. Very small, about 3 feet long. It's for the miller's child. Their daughter, Sarah, she was 4. She died 2 nights ago. A fever. That's all anyone knows. She got hot. She started shaking, and then she stopped breathing. It happens. It happens all the time. This is the third child's coffin you've made this year, and it's only July. This is not a somber, emotional project for you. It's a job. You are a craftsman, and your craft is turning wood into objects people need. And people in 1750 need coffins. Constantly. You are, in modern parlance, in the death services industry. The work is steady. The good news is business is booming. The bad news is business is booming because your friends and neighbors' children are dying at a rate that would be considered a world historical catastrophe today. You don't think of it that way. You can't. It's just Tuesday. As you run the plane over the wood, you're not thinking about little Sarah. You're thinking about the joinery. You're thinking about the joinery. You're thinking about getting the dovetails tight, because the miller is a fussy man, and he'll inspect your work. You're thinking that you quoted him a price, and you hope he pays in coin, not in flour, because your supply of flour is already crawling with weevils. You're thinking that the wood has a tricky grain near the end, and you have to be careful, or it will tear out. Your mind is on the mechanics of the job, the cold geometry of it. The emotional weight is a luxury you cannot afford to carry. If you let yourself feel the grief for every small box you built, you'd be a wreck. You'd be unable to work, and then your own children would starve. You have two of your own, by the way. A boy of 7, a girl of 5. You've already buried 2 others. One died in childbirth, along with your first wife. The other, a boy, lived for about a year before a coughing sickness took him in the dead of winter. You remember building that box. It was the hardest one. You don't like to think about it, so you focus on the plane, the blade, the wood, the satisfying curl of the shaving that tells you the edge is sharp and the angle is right. Shh. It's a sound that drowns out the others. The sound of your own ragged breathing, the buzzing of the fat, black flies that are circling a spot on the floor where you dripped some blood from your blistered hand, the distant rhythmic clang of the blacksmith's hammer down the street, the occasional shout of a merchant hawking his wares. The world outside your workshop is not quiet. It's a constant, noisy, messy affair. Suddenly, the light from the doorway is blocked. A figure stands there, a silhouette against the blinding sun. It's Miller. He's come to check on your progress. He steps inside, and the smell of the barn and stale grief comes with him. He's a big man, but he seems shrunken today. His face is a mask of exhaustion. His eyes are red-rimmed. He doesn't say hello. He just looks at the half-finished box on your bench. It will be done by morning, you say. It's not a question. It's a statement of fact. He nods, running a calloused hand over the smooth, planed surface of the oak. It's good wood, the best I have, you reply. Which is true. You reserve this piece. You do that for the children's boxes. It's a small, unspoken decency. He looks at you. My wife. She wants to know if you can carve her name on the lid. This is an extra. This will take time. Time you don't really have. You'll have to use your carving chisels by the light of a tallow candle tonight. A tallow candle is made of rendered animal fat. It smells like burning garbage and sputters and smokes, giving off a greasy, yellow light that makes everything look sickly. It will give you a headache. I can do that, you say. What will it cost? He asks. His voice is flat. Even in his grief, The cold calculus of colonial economics is ever present. Every nail, every cut, every carved letter has a price. You think for a moment, you should charge him an extra shilling. That's what it's worth. But you look at his face, the deep lines of sorrow carved around his mouth. You think of your own dead son. Nothing, you say. No extra cost. A flicker of something, surprise, gratitude, crosses his face and is gone just as quickly. He just nods again, turns, and walks out, leaving you once more alone in the hot, dusty light. You stand there for a moment, looking at the small box. For the first time all day, you let yourself think of the girl who will lie in it. You didn't know her well, just a flash of a running child with ribbons in her hair, chasing chickens in the dirt road. And now she's gone. A fever, a cough, a world of invisible dangers that no one understands. Your only defense is superstition and prayer. Your only insurance policy is to have more children and hope a few of them make it. You shake your head. Enough. The sun is getting lower. You still have work to do. You pick up the plane. You check the blade. You set it against the wood. Your back screams. Your hand throbs. The air is thick enough to chew. You take a deep breath of sawdust and sweat, and you push. Shh. The sound of the simple life, the sound of survival, the sound of a world so hard and so brutal that our modern conception of happiness would be utterly incomprehensible. This isn't a charming vignette from the past. This is a hostage situation, and your ransom is to wake up tomorrow and do it all. Over again. You finish your work for the day as the last light fails. You sweep the shavings into a corner where they will join the dust and the grime. You look at the small, perfect box, ready for its occupant. There's no sense of pride, just a dull ache of completion. You go into your small house attached to the workshop, your wife. Your wife is there, stirring a pot that smells of boiling corn and salt. Your two living children are playing on the floor. For a moment, a wave of terror washes over you, a primal fear for these fragile little beings. You push it down. You must. You eat your mush. You drink your small beer. And you thank a God you're not entirely sure you believe in that you made it through another day. The good old days, they weren't good, they were just old. And they were, almost without exception, absolutely terrible. Now, go enjoy that avocado toast. You've earned it. So, last time we met, you'd just arrived in this colonial paradise. We established that the air, rather than smelling of freedom and pine needles, carries the rich, complex bouquet of a backed-up sewer that's been left to bake in the sun. We learned that your charming period attire feels like wearing a burlap sack filled with angry fire ants. And we discovered that the picturesque colonial town is, for all intents and purposes, a sprawling, open-air biohazard. Now, let's get specific. Let's zero in on that romantic fantasy you've been nursing, the one from the brochures. 1750. A sun-drenched afternoon in North America. You are a master carpenter, a noble artisan, alone in your workshop. You're planing a huge slab of oak, the shavings curling up like perfect ribbons. You hear that satisfying shh sound. The air, we are told, is filled with the clean masculine scent of worked wood and warm sunshine. It sounds lovely, doesn't it? A kind of pre-industrial ASMR, a moment of quiet, productive zen. Let's burn that postcard. Let's burn it right now. Because you are there. Congratulations. You are that carpenter. And that sunny afternoon is not your friend. That sunshine isn't a gentle, golden wash. It's a harsh, unforgiving interrogator. It pours through the single, grimy window of your workshop. A window fitted with oiled paper instead of glass, because actual glass is a luxury you can only dream of affording. The light doesn't create a heavenly glow. It slices through the gloom in a thick, visible shaft, and what it illuminates is not a dance of charming dust motes. It's a swirling vortex of filth. You see every particle of sawdust, of course, but you also see particles of dried mud from the floor, flakes of rust from your tools, tiny fragments of animal hair, and a million other microscopic sins floating in the stagnant air. The sunbeam is a spotlight, and the star of the show is the thick, buzzing cloud of flies that treat your workshop as their personal convention center. They are fat, iridescent, green, and they move with the lazy confidence of creatures who know they own the place. They land on the wood, they land on your tools, they land on your face, crawling toward the corner of your eye or the moisture on your lip. You swat one away, and 3 more take its place. They are your co-workers. They don't help much, but their attendance is perfect, and the smell. Oh, the smell. Yes, you can detect a faint, sharp tang of oak. It's the scent of tannic acid, a smell like bitter tea. But that noble aroma is not the star of the show. It's a bit player, a background extra, the lead role. The overwhelming olfactory presence in this room is a symphony of stench, conducted by the heat of that lovely afternoon sun. The dominant note is you. You haven't had a proper bath in, well, what is a proper bath? You wash your face and hands in a basin of cold, murky water, but a full body wash is a rare seasonal event. So you smell. You smell of stale sweat, a sour, pungent odor that is soaked deep into the fibers of your linen shirt and woolen breeches. It's a smell that has become a permanent part of your personal atmosphere. Your body is a walking, breathing monument to the fact that deodorant has not yet been invented. Layered on top of your own formidable musk is the smell of your trade. Over in the corner, a small pot of animal glue is gently heating over a tiny charcoal brazier. It's made from boiling down hides, bones, and connective tissues. The result is an incredibly effective adhesive. It also smells exactly like what it is, boiled animal refuse. It's a thick, gag-inducing, slightly sweet smell of rotten decay, like a butcher's dumpster left out for a week in July. This smell clings to everything. It's in your hair. It's in your clothes. When you go home tonight, you will take the ghost of boiled cowhide with you. It's your signature cologne. And then, wafting in through that greasy paper window, comes the smell of the world outside, the cloying sweetness of horse manure from the street, the sharp tang of urine from the alleyway, the distant, stomach-turning funk of the town's slaughterhouse. The sun doesn't just bring light, it acts as a giant heat lamp, cooking all these smells together into a rich, complex, and utterly nauseating soup. The smell of sunshine is the smell of all this filth being baked. So take a deep breath. Inhale that colonial air. It's an experience. Not a good one, but definitely an experience. It's thick enough to taste. Now, let's talk about the work. You're planing a giant slab of oak. In the fantasy, this is a graceful, rhythmic act of creation. In reality, it is a brutal, soul-crushing exercise in physical endurance. First, the wood itself. This isn't a pre-milled, dimensionally stable plank from a home improvement superstore. This is a monster. It's a 2-inch thick, 10-foot-long slab of white oak, rough sawn, and weighing close to 200 pounds. Just getting it onto your workbench was a hernia-inducing struggle that involved levers, rollers, and a vocabulary of curses that would make a sailor blush. The surface is a nightmare of saw marks, knots, and unpredictable grain. Your job is to make it flat, perfectly flat, with nothing but a piece of steel and your own muscle. Your workbench isn't some finely crafted masterpiece either. It's a crude, heavy table you built yourself, its legs sunk directly into the dirt floor of your workshop. It's sturdy, but it's not level. Nothing in your world is truly level, and the tool, your hand plane, it's your most prized possession, a heavy block of beechwood with a carefully sharpened iron blade. But there are no ergonomic rubber grips, no precision machined adjustment knobs. The handle is just wood, worn smooth and dark with years of your own sweat and grime. Adjusting the blade depth involves tapping it with a small hammer, a process of trial and error that you've gotten good at, but which can still go wrong, causing you to either take off a shaving as thick as your thumb or none at all. You brace your feet on the uneven dirt floor. You lean your body into the first push. The romantic shh sound? A lie. The first push is a grunt. It's the sound of your muscles screaming as you force the blade into the unyielding surface of the oak. The plane doesn't glide. It shudders. It resists. It chatters across a high spot, the vibration rattling your teeth and shooting up your arms into your shoulder sockets. It feels less like woodworking and more like trying to shave a boulder. The sound is a grating, scraping roar. Gunk. Gunk. You take a thin, ragged shaving. You step back, breathing heavily. Your shirt is already sticking to your back. That was one pass. You have hundreds, maybe thousands to go. You settle into a rhythm. It is not a rhythm of grace. It is a rhythm of pain. Push. The muscles in your legs, back and shoulders, tense into a single coordinated shove. Your world narrows to the few feet of wood in front of you. The plane groans. You drag the heavy tool back. The sound of the iron scraping lightly on the wood. Your lungs burn. Push. Again. You feel a familiar hot burn beginning in your lower back. Your palms are already starting to feel raw against the wooden handle. A blister from yesterday's work, now covered by a thin layer of new skin, is threatening to tear open again. The shavings that come off aren't perfect, delicate curls. They are jagged, broken things, some thick, some thin. They fall to the floor to join the ankle-deep ocean of wood debris that already covers every square inch of your workshop. This isn't a tidy workspace you sweep up at the end of the day. This is a fire hazard you wade through. The dust gets everywhere. It's in your nostrils, a dry, tickling presence. It's in your throat, making you cough. You can feel the grit of it between your teeth. An hour passes. Then, too, the sun has moved, and the shaft of light is now directly in your eyes. You don't have sunglasses. You just squint, and the world becomes a painful, blurry glare. Sweat is pouring off you. It drips from your forehead and stings your eyes. It runs in rivers down your chest and back. The air is so thick with humidity and your own exertion that it feels like you're breathing water. Your body is the machine. There is no electric motor, no hydraulic press. There is only you, Every ounce of force, every bit of motion originates in your own sinew and bone, and the machine is breaking down. Your shoulders feel like they're being pulled from their sockets. Your back is a single, solid knot of agony. Your hands are on fire. You stop for a moment, leaning on the workbench, head down, trying to catch your breath. Your heart is hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird. You look at the oak slab. You've been working for 2 hours and you've managed to flatten a section maybe 2 feet long. It's a small island of relative smoothness in a vast, rough sea of wood. You have 8 more feet to go on this side. Then you have to flip the 200-pound beast over and do the other side. This is not a hobby. This is not artisanal. This is a war of attrition against a piece of a tree, and you are losing. You reach for the water bucket in the corner. You don't have a clean glass. You have a communal dipper, a gourd with a handle that hangs on a nail. You scoop up some water. It's lukewarm and tastes faintly of moss and wood. You can see things floating in it. You try not to look too closely. You drink, letting the tepid water spill down your chin and onto your chest, a momentary, shocking relief from the heat. It's the best moment of your day so far. As you're catching your breath, you feel a sharp, sudden pain in the palm of your left hand. You look down. A splinter. This isn't a tiny, superficial sliver. This is a serious piece of oak, a dark, jagged spear that has driven itself deep into the fleshy part of your palm, right at the base of your thumb. Blood is already welling up around it. A single, bright red jewel against your grime-caked skin. You curse a short, sharp, ugly word. Now what? There is no modern first aid kit. There are no sterile tweezers, no antiseptic wipes, no antibiotic ointment, no cute, cartoon, character-adorned bandages. Your first aid kit is a dirty fingernail and a high tolerance for pain. You try to pinch the end of the splinter, but it's too deep. Your fingers, clumsy with fatigue and coated in a film of sweat and grime, just slip off. The pain flashes, white-hot and nauseating. You need a tool. You look around and your eyes land on the tip of your marking knife lying on the bench. It's a small, sharp blade you use for scoring lines in wood. It is not sterile. It is currently caked with a mixture of wood dust and what looks suspiciously like a smear of dried animal glue. This is your surgical instrument. You wipe the blade on your breeches. This doesn't clean it, of course. It just transfers the filth from your knife to your pants, and the filth from your pants to your knife. It's the illusion of hygiene. You take a deep breath, brace your bleeding hand on the workbench, and start to dig. The pain is exquisite. It's a sharp, probing agony that makes you see stars. You grit your teeth, the muscles in your jaw clenching so hard your teeth ache. You have to hold steady, because a slip could mean slicing open your own palm, or worse, severing a tendon. You are a carpenter. Your hands are your entire net worth. A disabled hand isn't just an inconvenience, it's a death sentence. It means starvation after a few agonizing moments of bloody excavation. You manage to work the tip of the splinter out just enough to grab it with your teeth. Yes, with your teeth. You clamp down and pull. There's a sickening, tearing sensation, and the splinter comes free. It's an inch long and barbed like a fish hook. You spit it out, along with a mouthful of blood and grime. Your palm is a mess. It's bleeding freely now, a deep, ragged puncture wound in the middle of a landscape of calluses and old scars. What do? You can't just slap a bandage on it. You need to stop the bleeding. You look around your workshop, the temple of OSHA violations. Your eyes land on a dark, dusty corner of the ceiling where a spider has been very, very busy. Cobwebs, that's right. The go-to folk remedy for a cut is a nice, thick wad of dusty, insect, corpse-filled cobwebs. The theory is that the fine threads help the blood to clot. It's the 18th century equivalent of a styptic pencil, with the added premium feature of being contaminated with decades of accumulated filth and spider venom. You reach up, grab a sticky handful, and press it firmly into the open wound. The sensation is bizarre. A soft, slightly springy pressure, followed by a fresh wave of stinging pain as 100 unknown particles are introduced directly into your bloodstream. The good news is the bleeding slows. The bad news is you've just packed the wound with a potent cocktail of bacteria, fungal spores, and miscellaneous organic debris. You have, in modern terms, given yourself a tetanus shot, but in reverse. You wrap your hand with a strip of linen you tear from an old rag of questionable cleanliness. It will have to do. The hand throbs, a deep, rhythmic pulse of pain that syncs up with your own heartbeat. Every pulse is a reminder of the infection that is almost certainly beginning to brew deep in the tissue. You know the signs. Everyone does. First the redness and the swelling, then the heat, then the pus, then the red lines that start to creep up your arm, a sign that the poison is in your blood. You've seen it happen to others. A small cut, a festering wound, a fever, the delirium, and then a hastily constructed coffin, probably made by you. It's a fun little thing to think about as you stand there, your hand wrapped in a filthy rag, the smell of boiled hooves in your nostrils, and a mountain of oak still waiting for you. The simple, noble life. You pick up the plane again. You have to. This plank is for a table for the new minister. He's paying you not in coin, hard currency. Currency is scarce, but with a side of cured bacon and a promise to put in a good word for you with the Almighty. You can't eat prayer, but the bacon will keep your family fed for a week. So you work. You adjust your grip to keep the pressure off your injured palm. It's awkward. It throws off your balance. The work is even harder now. Each push of the plane sends a jolt of fire from your hand up your arm. You work through it. You have no choice. There are no sick days. There is no workers' compensation. There is only the work and the gnawing hunger that awaits if you fail to do it. The sun continues its slow, indifferent march across the sky. The flies continue to buzz. The glue continues to stink. Your body continues to scream. And you continue to shave infinitesimal layers from an impossibly large piece of wood, your entire existence focused on this single, miserable, unending task. You think about the minister. You think about the bacon. You think about the throbbing in your hand. You wonder if this is the cut that will finally do it. Will you be delirious with fever in a week? Will the barber surgeon come calling with his rusty saw and his bottle of rum for anesthetic? Amputation was often a survivable procedure, they said. The good news is they might save your life. The bad news is they'll leave you as a one-handed carpenter, which is the colonial equivalent of a retired superhero. All stories, no prospects. You push the plane, you pull it back. The wood groans, your body aches, your hand throbs. And somewhere, 270 years in the future, Someone is looking at a painting of a scene just like this one, sighing and saying, "Ah, what a simpler time." You'd laugh if you had the energy, but you don't. You just need to get through the next push, and the one after that, and the one after that. The sun is starting to dip lower, and you're not even halfway done. Let's go back to that plane, that heavy, cast iron beast in your hands. It feels less like a tool and more like a punishment, an instrument of penance for some forgotten sin. The sole plate isn't perfectly flat. Nothing ever is. It has a slight belly to it, a subtle curve from decades of use and clumsy sharpening by apprenticed, and are now, most likely, dead. You have to compensate for it with every push, a little twist of the wrist, a slight shift in your stance. It's a constant, nagging conversation between your muscles and the flawed steel. This isn't the Zen-like craftsmanship you see in curated online videos. This is a brawl, a clumsy, sweetie, ugly fight with a stubborn piece of nature. The blade is made of blister steel, a primitive, inconsistent alloy that holds an edge for about as long as a politician holds a promise. You sharpened it this morning, a laborious process of grinding it against a sandstone wheel turned by your long-suffering apprentice, who is currently outrunning an errand that you suspect involves a tavern. You spent a good 20 minutes honing the edge on a slate stone with a slurry of oil and grit, getting it sharp enough to shave the hairs from your arm. A little party trick you do to feel like you have some control over your universe. That feeling lasted for exactly 12 passes on this slab of oak. Now, the edge is gone. It's not so much slicing the wood fibers as it is tearing them, bullying them into submission. The shavings are no longer those perfect, gossamer, thin curls. They're thick, they're ragged, they come off with a shudder that travels up the tool, into your hands, through your wrists, and settles as a deep, resonant ache in your elbows and shoulders. It feels like punching a brick wall over and over again. Your joints are your personal shock absorbers, and the warranty has long since expired. You stop. You have to. Your lungs are burning. The air, which at first seemed so pleasantly aromatic with that fresh wood scent, is now a thick, choking fog of fine oak dust. It's not a gentle perfume. It's an abrasive. It coats the back of your throat, turning your saliva into a gritty paste. It works its way into your nostrils, your eyelashes, the corners of your eyes. You blink, and you can feel the tiny particles grinding against your cornea. It's like nature's own tear gas. Every breath is a little shallower than the last. You can feel this dust settling deep in your chest, a down payment on the consumption that will probably claim you before you're 50. Silicosis is a word from the future. For you, it's just the carpenter's cough, a wet, rattling hack that brings up a disquieting brown phlegm in the mornings. It's a standard feature of the job. Comes with the territory. You wipe your forehead with the back of your hand, smearing a paste of sweat and sawdust across your brow. The sweat drips, stinging your eyes, tracing cleanish paths through the grime on your face. You look like a sad, tired clown. Your shirt, a coarse linen thing that feels like a burlap sack against your skin, is soaked through. It clings to your back and chest, a damp, cold compress that does nothing to cool you down. It just feels clammy, unpleasant. The fabric has a permanent, sour smell of old sweat and wood smoke that no amount of lye soap can ever truly vanquish. It's It's the signature scent of the working man. Eau de toil. Let's talk about your hands. Forget any romantic notion of the calloused, noble hands of a craftsman. Yours are a disaster zone, a roadmap of pain. The palms are a solid mass of yellowish callus, thick as leather, but cracked and split in places that never seem to fully heal. Underneath, there's a permanent, deep bone bruise from the toad of the plane. Blisters have formed, popped and reformed so many times in the same spots that the skin is a patchwork of tender pink and horny yellow. Your knuckles are permanently swollen, barked and scarred from 1,000 careless slips and impacts. And the splinters. Oh, the splinters. They are a constant, a part of your life, not the tiny trivial ones you might get from a piece of modern kiln-dried pine. No, these are oak splinters. They are vicious, aggressive little javelins of wood that drive themselves deep into your flesh. You have 3 of them right now. One under the nail of your left thumb, a throbbing, purple misery that sends a jolt of pure agony up your arm every time you grip the plane. You've tried to dig it out with the point of your knife, a process that involved a lot of gritting your teeth and a fair amount of blood, but you only managed to drive it deeper. It's infected, of course. Everything gets infected. A low-grade, persistent infection that makes the whole thumb swell up like a ripe plum. The good news is, the constant throbbing distracts you from the ache in your shoulder. The bad news is, you're pretty sure you can feel your own pulse in your thumbnail. There's another splinter in the fleshy part of your forearm. You got it yesterday, wrestling this very slab of oak onto the workbench. It's a big one. You can see it under the skin, a dark, angry line about 1 inch long. The area around it is red, hot to the touch, and exquisitely tender. Tetanus, you've seen what it does. They call it lockjaw. You've seen a man from the shipyard die of it. A horrible, rigid death, his body arched backward in a permanent, silent scream. You try not to think about it. You push the thought away. Because what can you do? There are no tetanus shots. There's no emergency room. The closest thing you have to a doctor is the barber, a man whose primary medical solution involves a rusty fleam and a bowl to catch the bad humors. Or maybe the local wise woman, whose remedies mostly consist of foul-smelling poultices and chanting. You'll take your chances with the splinter. For now, you need to sharpen the plane iron again. This is the 3rd time today. You sigh. It's not a sigh of gentle weariness. It's a deep, guttural exhalation of pure, soul-crushing futility. The entire process is a Sisyphean torment. You push the wood, the blade gets dull. You sharpen the blade, you go back to the wood. The sun crawls across the sky with agonizing slowness. Your only measure of time is the growing pile of shavings on the floor and the deepening ache in your bones. You unclamp the lever cap on the plane, your thumb screaming in protest. You tap out the blade assembly. It's hot from the friction. You carry it over to the grinding wheel in the corner. It's a heavy sandstone disc, maybe 3 feet in diameter, set in a wooden trough that you're supposed to keep filled with water. It's currently filled with a sludgy, gray water that smells like a swamp. You press the treadle with your foot, and the heavy wheel begins to turn with a low, mournful groan. It's like trying to pedal a bicycle through wet cement. You need to get it up to speed, a task that leaves you winded before you've even started the actual sharpening. Now, the delicate part. You hold the blade against the spinning, wet stone. The sound is one of the most unpleasant you can imagine. A high-pitched, grating shriek of steel on stone that sets your teeth on edge. It's the sound of 1,000 fingernails being dragged down 1,000 chalkboards, amplified and delivered directly into your brain. Sparks fly, hissing as they hit the murky water. A fine spray of grit and steel particles coats your face and hands. You have to hold the blade at a precise angle, a skill that took you years to learn. A moment's lapse in concentration, a slight wobble, and you'll ruin the edge, forcing you to spend another hour regrinding the whole bevel. Your infected thumb is throbbing in time with the screech of the wheel. The pain is a sharp, white-hot counterpoint to the dull ache in your leg from working the treadle. This is your life. This is your art. A symphony of misery performed on instruments of pain. After an eternity, the new bevel is set. You move to the sharpening stone, a slab of slate sitting on your bench. You splash some oil on it. It's not some refined, lightweight honing oil. It's probably fish oil or whale oil. It has a faint, rancid smell that clings to everything. You work the blade back and forth, raising a burr, then flipping it and honing it off. Your entire body is tense. This requires a delicate touch that feels absurd after the brute force of the grinding wheel. Your muscles, coiled and screaming from the planing and the treadling, now have to perform a surgeon's task. It's a cruel joke. Finally, it's sharp. Again, you test it on your arm. The hairs pop off, a small fleeting moment of satisfaction, a tiny victory in a long and losing war. You reassemble the plane, setting the blade depth by eye. Too deep, and it will bite and choke. Too shallow, and it will skate uselessly over the surface. You tap it with a small hammer. A little tap here, a little tap there, an art form in itself. You take a test pass on a piece of scrap. A perfect, translucent shaving rolls up. Good. You're ready to go back to work. Ready to convert another 10 minutes of your life force into a slightly flatter piece of wood. You turn back to the oak slab. It sits there on the bench, impassive, mocking you. It seems to have grown larger, more intimidating. The grain, which looked so beautiful in the morning light, now looks like a contorted, snarled mess. You see a knot, a big one, right in the middle of your next planned pass. A knot is a carpenter's nightmare. It's a dense, circular swirl of wood fibers, hard as rock. Hitting it with a hand plane is like driving a car into a pothole the size of a crater. The plane will stop dead, jarring your entire skeleton. The blade, your freshly sharpened blade, that you just spent 20 minutes of your life perfecting, could chip, or worse. The whole plane could kick, jump out of your hands, and land on your foot. Your boots are worn leather. They offer about as much protection as a pair of socks. You've seen a man lose 2 toes that way. You decide to work around it for now. You'll deal with it later. With a chisel, maybe. That's a whole different kind of fun. You set the plane at the end of the board. You take a deep breath, trying to draw air into your dust-clogged lungs. You set your stance. You lean into it. The first pass is good. A clean shaving. The plane glides, that tiny victory. Shra. Another one. You're finding a rhythm. The rhythm of misery. Push, walk back. Push, walk back. Your world shrinks to the 20-inch width of this board. Your entire existence is this repetitive motion. Your mind goes blessedly, mercifully blank. You're no longer a man. You are a machine, a simple biological engine for converting food and water into flat surfaces. This is the only way to survive the day, to disassociate, to turn off the part of your brain that screams about the pain, the futility, the splinters, the dust, the gnawing certainty that you will be doing this exact same thing tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, until your body finally, mercifully, breaks down for good. But the universe abhors a vacuum, especially a mental one. A thought intrudes, a memory from last winter. You were building a coffin. You build a lot of coffins. It's steady work. This one was for a child, the little girl from the tailor's shop down the street. Smallpox. You planed the pine boards, just like this. The wood was soft, easy. The shavings were light. The work was quick, too quick. You remember the father coming to collect it, a small, simple pine box. He didn't look at you. He just stared at the box. He paid you with a coin that was still warm from his pocket. You didn't want to take it, but you have a family to feed, so you took it. You remember the sound the coin made when you dropped it into your money box. A dead, final little clink. That thought is worse than the dust, worse than the pain in your thumb. You push harder on the plane, trying to physically shove the memory out of your head. The wood groans, your muscles scream, the sweat pours. You need a saw. This slab is about 2 feet longer than the specifications for the tabletop you're building. You need to cross-cut the end. You put down the plate, grateful for the change in torture. You walk over to the wall where your saws hang like medieval instruments of torment. You have a few: a rip saw for cutting with the grain, a crosscut saw for cutting against it, a small tenon saw for joinery. They are all your enemies. You take down the crosscut saw. The handle is wood, polished smooth by your own sweat. The plate is a long, tapering piece of steel, sharpened by you. Of course, the teeth are a series of tiny, sharp triangles, each one filed by hand with a triangular file. If one tooth is slightly off, the saw will bind or drift. Sharpening a saw is an even more tedious and soul-destroying task than sharpening a plain iron. It involves sitting for hours, your eyes inches from the blade, filing each individual tooth to the perfect angle and height. It's a job that guarantees a headache and a stiff neck. Your back is already a knot of petrified muscle, so you barely notice that part anymore. You mark a line across the board with a piece of chalk and a tri-square. You prop the end of the board up on a sawhorse. You put your knee on the board to hold it steady. You draw the saw back a few times to start the kerf, and then you begin to push and pull. The sound of a handsaw is not the satisfying "kss" you hear in a movie. It's a coarse, rasping groan. It's the sound of a dying animal. Each push sends a vibration through your arm. Each pull feels like you're dragging the blade through wet sand. Oak is not a forgiving wood. The saw wants to bind. The cut wants to drift away from your line. You have T. Oh, watch it constantly, guiding it, correcting it. Your body is contorted into an unnatural crouch. Your head is bent, your eyes fixed on the chalk line. The sawdust, a finer, more irritating powder than the plain shavings, puffs up into your face with every stroke. You're not just breathing it now, you're eating it. It has a bitter, tannic taste. Your arm burns. Your shoulder, already aching from the plane, feels like it's being pulled from its socket. This is not a task of finesse. This is pure, brute strength and endurance. You are a human reciprocating saw with a much lower cycle rate and a far greater capacity for suffering. Halfway through the cut, the saw binds hard. It wedges itself in the kerf and refuses to move. This is common. The wood releasing tension as you cut has pinched the blade. You try to wiggle it, nothing. You pull harder, still nothing. The saw is now a permanent part of the board. You let out a string of curses that would make a sailor blush. Your vocabulary of profanity is extensive. It's one of the few perks of the job. Now what? You could try to drive a wedge into the cut to open it up, but your wedges are on the other side of the shop. You're too tired and too angry to go get one, so you do apply more force. You put your foot against the workbench, grab the saw handle with both hands, and pull with every ounce of strength you have left. Your back screams. Your teeth are clenched so hard you feel like they might shatter. With a sudden, violent crack, the saw comes free, and the back of your hand, the one holding the top of the saw for guidance, slams directly into the sharp, splintered edge of the cut you just made. Pain, blinding, electric white pain. It's not a dull ache this time. It's a sharp, piercing, instantaneous agony that makes you see stars. You cry out a short, sharp yelp and drop the saw. It clatters to the floor. You look at your hand. It's not good. A deep, ragged gash runs across your knuckles. It's wide open, a canyon in your flesh. You can see the pale, slick gleam of a tendon before the blood starts. And then it starts. It doesn't just well up, it pulses. A thick, dark red that pumps out in time with your frantic heartbeat. It runs down your hand, over your wrist, and begins to drip onto the floorboards, landing in the sawdust with a soft, pattering sound. You stare at it for a second, mesmerized by the sheer volume of it. Your brain struggles to catch up. This is bad. This is very, very bad. An injury like this isn't an inconvenience. It's a potential catastrophe. It's a threat to your livelihood, to your life. You can't work with a hand like this. If you can't work, you can't earn. If you can't earn, your family doesn't eat. It's that simple. The social safety net is your wife, who is already working herself to the bone, and your children, who are more of a long-term investment with a highly uncertain return. Panic begins to set in, cold and sharp. You need to stop the bleeding. You look around the workshop. There's nothing clean. The entire room is a universe of dirt, dust, and grime. The rags you use to wipe up oil and finish are stiff with dried chemicals. Using one of them would be like packing the wound with poison. You rip a strip of fabric from the hem of your already ruined shirt. It's filthy, soaked with sweat, but it's the best you can do. You wrap it tightly around your knuckles, gritting your teeth as the rough fabric grinds into the open wound. The pain is nauseating. You pull the makeshift bandage as tight as you can. Your other hand, clumsy and shaking. The blood immediately begins to soak through the linen, turning the grimy fabric a dark, ugly crimson. You press down hard, elevating your arm, your mind racing through the litany of horrors. The infection that is almost certain to follow, the fever, the red lines that might creep up your arm, the possibility of losing a finger or the whole hand. You remember Old Man Hemlock, the Cooper. He got a cut from an adze. It festered. They had to take his arm off. At the shoulder. The barber did it with a saw very much like the one now lying on your floor. Hemlock screamed for 2 hours, and then he died of shock a day later. You stand there in the middle of your workshop in the slanted afternoon sun, clutching your bleeding hand, the smell of your own blood now mingling with the dust and the sweat. The beautiful sunny afternoon is a cruel mockery. The air is not filled with the aroma of wood and sunshine. It's filled with the stench of your own fear. You are alone. You are in pain. And your only hope is that your body, your broken down, exhausted, abused body, has enough fight left in it to not let a simple, stupid cut kill you. You look at the half-finished tabletop, the symbol of your labor, and for the first time today, you feel nothing but a profound, bottomless hatred for it. And so you push. The plane skips, a jarring stutter that travels from the iron blade up the wooden body of the tool and directly into the bones of your wrists. Your teeth clench. A low grunt escapes your throat, a sound more animal than human. You stop, breathing heavily, and examine the board. There it is, a small, ugly patch of torn grain, a patch of rebellion where the wood fibers lifted up instead of shearing cleanly away. It's a divot, a wound, a tiny, infuriating monument to your momentary lapse in concentration. You curse, not a loud, theatrical curse. It's a quiet, tired, venomous little word hissed through your teeth. A word reserved for the inanimate objects that conspire to ruin your day, your week, your life. This is the reality of that satisfying sound. That crisp, curling hiss of a hand plane on oak is not a guarantee. It's a reward. It's a prize you win only through a perfect, harmonious alignment of a dozen different variables. The sharpness of the blade, honed to a razor's edge that can shave the hairs from your arm. The precise setting of that blade's depth, adjusted by tapping a small hammer in increments you can feel but barely see. The moisture content of the wood, the angle of your body, the pressure of your hands, a constant, fluid negotiation between your palms and the unyielding timber. Get one of those things wrong, and you don't get the hiss. You get this, a chatter, a skip, a gouge, a reminder that you are not a master imposing your will on the wood. You are a supplicant, begging it to cooperate. You take a step back. The sunlight that streams through the single grimy window of your workshop is no longer a warm, gentle friend. It's an interrogator's lamp. It slices across the room, illuminating a billion dancing dust motes, and you know, with a sick certainty, what those motes are made of. Sawdust, yes, but also dried flakes of animal glue, dirt from the street, skin cells, the desiccated remains of countless flies. It's a swirling galaxy of filth, and you're breathing it in, coating your lungs with the very substance of your workshop. The light hits the oak board at a low angle, making your new mistake, your little patch of torn grain, look like a canyon. It mocks you. You'll have to go back over it. Take another pass, and then another, removing precious fractions of an inch from the entire surface just to erase this one tiny failure. The board was supposed to be exactly 1 inch thick for the lid of a sea chest. Now it will be less, and you can already hear the client, a portly merchant with a face like a spoiled ham, pointing it out. I paid for a full inch, Master Carpenter. Is this an inch? It feels thin. Your hands ache. Let's talk about your hands. Forget the romantic image of the strong, capable craftsman. Look at them. Really look. The palms are a solid slab of callus, yellowed and hard as leather. But it's not a smooth, uniform hardness. It's a landscape of trenches and ridges with deep, permanent cracks in the creases that sting when you sweat. And you are always sweating. There's a fresh blister forming where your thumb knuckle rubs against the tote of the plane. You can feel it, a hot, fluid-filled pocket of pain that you are determined to ignore. There are 3 splinters under the nail of your left index finger, tiny brown lines that throb with a dull, persistent rhythm. You tried to get them out last night with a needle by candlelight, but only managed to make things bloodier and more painful. Infection is not an abstract concept. It's your constant, silent partner in this business. 2 years ago, a splinter just like these, in this very finger, put your friend Thomas in his grave. It started as a throb, then a red line snaking up his arm, then fever, delirium, and a final, merciful quiet. You built his coffin, pine, not oak. He couldn't afford oak. So you stand there, staring at the rebellious wood, and you feel the sweat. It's not a healthy, post-workout glow. It's a greasy, sticky film. It trickles down from your hairline, stinging your eyes with salt. It soaks the collar of your linen shirt, which is already stiff with the dried sweat of yesterday and the day before. The shirt clings to your back like a damp, itchy second skin. The smell of your own body, stale and sour, reaches up to meet you. It's the smell of labor, the smell of being alive in 1750. It's a smell you can't wash away because the soap is made of lye and tallow and strips your skin raw, and the water has to be hauled from the communal well and is probably carrying cholera anyway. So you just smell. Everyone smells. It's the baseline sensory experience of existence, and your smell is not alone in the room. Let's talk about the air. The prompt mentioned the fragrance of wood and the smell of sunshine. A lovely bit of poetry. The reality is a bit more complex. Yes, there is the smell of the oak. It's a sharp, almost vanilla-like scent, clean and pleasant, but it's just one note in a staggering, overwhelming symphony of stench. It's the first violin in an orchestra, where the brass section is a slaughterhouse and the percussion is a latrine. Your primary accompanist in this olfactory opera is the glue pot over there in the corner. Simmering over a small charcoal brazier is your adhesive. This isn't a tidy plastic bottle of Elmer's. This is hide glue. To make it, you take scraps of animal hide, sinew, bones, and hooves, the bits the tanner and the butcher can't use, and you boil them in water for hours and hours and hours, until they break down into a gelatinous primordial slime. You then let it cool, cut the resulting jelly into sheets and dry it. To use it, you break off a piece, add water, and heat it gently. The smell is indescribable, but let's try. Imagine you left a pot of beef stew on the stove for a week in the summer. Now imagine that stew was made not with prime beef, but with the leathery, hairy ears of a cow and the gristle from a pig's foot. Now set that on fire. It's a thick, gag-inducing smell, a meaty, foul, slightly sweet odor of decay and protein breakdown. It's the smell of a medieval kitchen crossed with a morgue. It coats the back of your throat. It clings to your clothes and hair. When you go home at night, your wife can smell the glue on you from 10 feet away. It's the official perfume of your profession. The glue pot has friends too. Fat, iridescent green bottle flies, drunk on The fumes buzz around it in lazy, ecstatic circles. They land on the sticky rim, get stuck and die, their tiny bodies becoming part of the next batch. It's a self-sustaining ecosystem of filth. That's just inside the workshop. Your workshop is not a hermetically sealed clean room. It is, to use the modern parlance, an open concept space. And the concept it is open to is the street. The door is wide open for ventilation. The window has no glass, just wooden shutters, and through those openings wafts the rich, complex bouquet of a mid-18th century colonial town. What does that smell like? First, there's the ever-present foundation layer of animal waste. Horses are the primary mode of transportation. They are everywhere, and they are not potty trained. The street outside is a minefield of horse manure, slowly desiccating in the sun, releasing its earthy, ammoniac aroma. Pigs, the city's garbage disposal units, roam freely, adding their own contributions. Then there's the dog and chicken filth. It's a constant, low-level barnyard smell. On top of that, you have the human contribution. See that dark, wet stain running down the middle of the street? That's not from a recent rain shower. That's the communal sewer, such as it is. It's where people dump their chamber pots in the morning. A fragrant cocktail of urine, feces, and whatever else needed to be thrown out. On a warm afternoon like this, it bakes, the smell rises. It's a sharp, acrid, eye-watering stench that you've mostly learned to ignore. The way a city dweller today learns to ignore the sound of sirens. But wait, there's more. 2 doors down is a tannery. On a good day, it smells of curing leather and oak bark. On a bad day, when they're scraping the flesh from fresh hides and soaking them in vats of, let's just call it a special solution of dung and lime, the smell is powerful enough to make your eyes water and your stomach turn. It's a raw, visceral smell of death and chemicals. The wind shifts. Now you get a whiff of the fish market down by the wharf. The smell of 3-day-old cod guts baking in the sun. So you're standing in your workshop. You inhale. You get a little oak. Yes, but it's swimming in a tidal wave of your own sweat, boiling animal parts, street sewage, horse manure, and rotting fish. The smell of sunshine isn't a thing. Sunshine has no smell. What you're smelling is the sun cooking all of this, amplifying it, turning your world into a giant, slow-baking oven of stink. You pick up the plane again. The handle is slick with your sweat. You wipe your palm on your breeches, which does little more than move the grime around. You need to fix this gouge. The plane itself is a beast. It's a jack plane, nearly 2 feet long. The body is beechwood, dark and stained with years of oil and sweat. The blade is held in place with a simple wooden wedge, no micro adjusters, no ergonomic grips, no premium features. It's a block of wood with a sharp piece of metal sticking out of it. It weighs about 8 pounds, and you have to push this 8-pound bee lock across a notoriously stubborn hardwood, 100, maybe thousands of times a day. Your entire body is the machine. You lock your elbows, lean your weight into it, and drive with your legs. It's a full-body workout, but without the benefit of a pleasant gym environment or the prospect of improved aesthetics. The only thing this workout improves is your probability of having chronic back pain by the age of 30. You are 28. Your back already clicks when you stand up. Your knees ache in the morning, a dull rheumatic throb that predicts the weather better than any almanac. You have a persistent ringing in your right ear from years of hammering. Sometimes, after a long day of sawing, your right arm will tremble uncontrollably for an hour. This isn't a job you retire from. It's a job that retires you, piece by piece, until one day you simply can't lift the plane anymore. Your retirement plan is the hope that you have a son who is strong enough to take over the workshop before your body completely gives out. The good news is, you have a son. The bad news is, he's 6. You set the plane down on the board, positioning it for a new pass. You can't just attack the torn grain head on. That will only make it worse. You have to approach it from the other direction, planing with the grain. You have to read the wood to understand its secret language of lines and patterns. You run your fingers over the surface. This isn't a sensual, loving caress. It's a diagnostic procedure. You're feeling for the subtle rise and fall of the fibers, trying to predict how the blade will interact with them. Your fingertips are your most sensitive diagnostic tool. They're also calloused and frequently bleeding. It's a paradox. The silence in the workshop is broken by a sound from the back room. A clumsy, thudding noise, followed by a muttered curse. That would be your apprentice. Let's call him Samuel. He's 15. His father, a farmer, paid you a handsome sum, a whole 10 pounds sterling, to take the boy on for 7 years. In exchange, you have to feed him, clothe him in your old, patched-up clothes, and teach him the trade. In theory, he is here to make your life easier. In practice, Samuel is a walking, breathing liability. He is a black hole of productivity. He possesses a unique talent for finding the most expensive piece of wood in the shop and ruining it in the most creative way possible. Last week, he tried to saw a straight line and ended up with something resembling a topographical map of the Alps. The week before, he knocked over the pot of shellac, cherie, creating a sticky, permanent puddle on the floor that now serves as a memorial to his incompetence. Samuel, you bark without turning around. A moment of silence, then a shuffling sound. Yes, master. His voice is a nervous, adolescent squeak. What was that noise? Nothing, master. Just adjusting the bench. You know he's lying. Adjusting the bench is his code for, I have just broken something valuable and or injured myself. You don't have the energy to deal with it right now. Is the new glue ready, you ask? Almost, master. It's a bit thick. You close your eyes. A bit thick. You know what this means. He let the fire burn too hot and boiled off too much water. The glue is probably a scorched, tarry mess, about as useful for joinery as mud. You'll have to add more water, stir it, and pray you can salvage it. It's another delay, another frustration. You are trapped. You are the sole proprietor, chief financial officer, head of manufacturing, quality control inspector, and human resources department of a failing small business. Samuel is your entire workforce. He is also your marketing department's worst nightmare. You take a deep breath, which you immediately regret as the glue and sewage smell fills your lungs. You focus on the oak board. You have to finish this. The merchant, Mr. Albright, is expecting his chest by Saturday. If it's late, he'll dock your pay. If the lid is too thin, he'll dock your pay. If he finds a single flaw, a single tool mark, he will hold it up as evidence of your shoddy workmanship and demand a discount. customer service in the 18th century is a one-way street. The customer is always right, especially when he's richer than you are. And everyone is richer than you are. You pushed the plane. This time, it works. The blade is set just right. Your stance is perfect. The pressure is even. The plane glides forward, and a long, translucent shaving of oak curls up from the throat of the plane, delicate as a ribbon. It makes the sound, that perfect, sibilant shh, a sound of pure, unadulterated shear. The shaving lands in a soft pile at your feet, joining thousands of its brethren. It smells wonderful. That clean, vanilla oak scent, unadulterated for a single, fleeting moment before it mixes with the ambient horror of the room's atmosphere. For a fraction of a second, you feel it, a flicker of something like joy. The satisfaction of a job done right. The simple, honest pleasure of a craftsman shaping his world. It's the feeling that gets romanticized in poems and paintings. The feeling that makes people in the future think this was a noble and rewarding life. The feeling lasts for exactly as long as it takes to complete the pass. About 2 seconds. Then you have to pull the heavy plane back, position it for the next pass, and do it again, and again, and again. Hundreds of times, the brief flicker of satisfaction is immediately extinguished by the crushing, monotonous reality of the labor. It's like getting a single drop of clean water while dying of thirst in the desert. It only serves to remind you how thirsty you are. You glance at the sunbeam. It's moved. It's lower in the sky. You've been at this one board for 3 hours, and it's not even the hard part. After planing it flat, you have to ensure the edges are perfectly square to the face. Then you have to cut the joinery. Mortise and tenon joints, probably. Cut by hand, with a saw and a chisel. A process that requires a level of precision that is frankly absurd, given the crude tools you're working with. One slip of the chisel, one saw cut that wanders from the line, and the joint is loose. The chest will be weak. Mr. Albright will complain. You won't get paid. This isn't art. This isn't a passion project. This is a high-stakes, nerve-shredding exercise in avoiding destitution. Every action you take is a gamble. Every push of the plane, every tap of the chisel is a bet that you can execute it perfectly. The house, in this case, the unyielding laws of physics, and the fickle nature of wood, always has the edge. You finish another pass, another perfect shaving, another 2 seconds of hollow victory. You are a machine made of aching flesh and bone, performing a repetitive task. The sun bakes the air, the flies buzz, the street stinks, your back throbs, your hand is blistering. Your apprentice is probably setting fire to the back room. And you have to keep pushing this block of iron and wood across this slab of tree until it is flatter than it was before. This is your sunny afternoon. This is your life, and the most terrifying, soul-crushing part of it all. For 1750, this is a pretty good day. The plane whispers its final, tired shh across the oak. You stop, not because you want to, but because your arm has filed a formal complaint with the rest of your body and is threatening to go on strike. You let your right hand hang, a dead weight of tingling flesh and bone. It feels puffy, inflated, like a leather glove someone left out in the rain. You try to make a fist, and the skin across your knuckles pulls tight, protesting. The blisters that formed this morning have already popped, and now the new, raw skin underneath is forming its own blisters. It's a multi-generational family of pain, living right there in the palm of your hand. Your calluses, which you once thought of as nature's work gloves, now feel less like protection and more like stiff, dead plates glued to your skin with fire trapped underneath. You can feel the vibration of the work not just in your hand, but up your entire arm. It's a low, persistent hum, a ghost of the motion you've been repeating for hours. Your shoulder joint clicks with a sound like wet pebbles grinding together. Your elbow has a dull, radiating ache, the kind that promises to be a real bastard when the cold evening air rolls in. This isn't the satisfying ache of a good workout. This is the slow, grinding erosion of your body. You are a machine made of meat, and your parts are wearing out. There's no warranty. There are no replacements. There is only the steady, downward slope of decay, punctuated by the rhythmic scraping of metal on wood. You lean against the workbench, the rough edge digging into your hip bone. The air is still thick with that smell you love, the sharp, almost spicy scent of fresh-cut oak. But now, another aroma is layered on top of it. It's you. It's the sour, metallic tang of sweat that has dried and been re-dampened a half-dozen times today. It smells like hard work, sure, but it also smells a bit like old cheese. You are, to put it mildly, fragrant. Personal hygiene is a luxury reserved for people who don't spend 10 hours a day wrestling with timber. You get a full body wash once a week, maybe. The rest of the time, it's a quick splash to the face and hands with a basin of cold, murky water. It doesn't so much clean you as it does simply rearrange the dirt. The light slanting through the open doorway has turned a deeper shade of gold. The afternoon is waning. You look at the plank. It's smoother. Yes, but it's not done. It's never done. This is just one of a dozen boards destined to become a wardrobe for a merchant downtown, a man who will never know the feeling of a blister popping under a callus, but who will, without a doubt, complain that the doors don't hang with perfect, laser-leveled precision. You close your eyes for a second, just a second, letting the quiet of the workshop settle around you. The only sounds are the distant bleating of a goat, the buzz of a fat, lazy fly bumping against a wall, and the frantic thumping of your own heart in your ears. It's almost peaceful. Almost. A shadow falls across the threshold, blocking the golden light. Your eyes snap open. You don't have to look up to know someone is there. The sudden chill in the air tells you everything. The piece is over. Business has arrived. You instinctively wipe your sweaty hand on your leather apron, a gesture that does nothing but smear a slurry of sweat and fine sawdust across the worn hide. You straighten up, trying to look less like a man on the verge of collapse and more like a respectable artisan. It's a performance. Everything is a performance. You are the competent craftsman. You are not tired. Your arm is not a noodle. You are ready and eager to serve. A man steps into the workshop. He has to duck his head to get through the door. He's tall and broad in a way that speaks of authority, not labor. He's wearing a wool coat even in this warmth, a dark, severe blue. His shoes are leather with actual buckles, silver buckles. Oh, it's one of them, a gentleman, or at least someone who has paid a great deal of money to look like one. He carries the quiet, unshakable confidence of a man who has never had to worry where his next meal is coming from. He looks around your workshop, his eyes flicking over the stacked lumber, the scattered tools, the drifts of wood shavings on the floor. His nose twitches just slightly. He's taking in the aroma, not the noble scent of oak, you realize. He's smelling you. He's smelling the poverty. You are the carpenter? His voice is deep, accustomed to being obeyed. It's not a question, it's a confirmation. You nod. I am. You try to keep your own voice even, respectful, but not servile. It's a fine line to walk. Tip too far one way, you're insolent too far the other, and he'll walk all over you on the price. I have need of your services. A matter of some urgency, of course it is. No one ever comes to you for a matter of casual, take-your-time convenience. Every job is a crisis. Every project is an emergency. The colonial mindset doesn't have a setting for standard shipping. It's all overnight express, but without the reliability or the tracking number. You gesture vaguely at the half-finished plank on your bench. I am presently engaged with a commission for Mr. Albright. You drop the name deliberately. Albright is a known merchant. It's your sad little way of saying, I am a serious person in demand by other serious people. The man is unimpressed. His gaze is as flat and hard as a river stone. Mr. Albright's wardrobe can wait. My needs are more immediate. He takes a step further into the room, and the fly that was buzzing lazily by the wall suddenly drops to the floor, stunned by the sheer gravitational pull of his self-importance. My mother-in-law has passed. Ah, there it is, the most urgent commission of all, the one that can't be postponed. You feel a strange, grim little flicker of something that isn't quite relief, but isn't quite sorrow either. It's just business. Death is a reliable customer. My condolences for your loss, you say. The words are automatic, worn smooth from use. You say them a lot in this line of work. You make cradles and you make coffins. You're there for the beginning and you're there for the end. And frankly, the end pays better. Yes, yes, he waves a hand, dismissing your sympathy as if it were a pesky insect. She was old. It was her time. The Lord has called her home. He says it with the emotional resonance of a man reading a weather report. The good news is the Lord has called her home. The bad news is now he has to deal with the administrative hassle of her corpse. I require a coffin, he says, getting straight to the point. A simple one. Pine is sufficient. She was not a vain woman. This is code. Simple and pine means cheap. And she was not a vain woman means I don't want to spend a shilling more than I have to on a box we're about to bury in the dirt. You understand this language perfectly. It's the native tongue of thrifty grief. Of course, you reply. When would you be needing it? A stupid question, really, but you have to ask. By tomorrow morning. You almost laugh. Almost. Tomorrow morning. He says it so calmly, as if he's asking you to pass the salt. He has no concept of what he's asking. That's a full day's work minimum. Assuming you have the right lumber, seasoned and ready. Assuming nothing goes wrong. Assuming your arm doesn't just fall off your body from overuse. Sir, that is a very short timetable. You try to sound reasonable, professional. You try to inject a note of, let's manage expectations here. His eyes narrow. She is in the front parlor. In this heat, we cannot afford a long timetable. Do you understand? You do. You understand all too well. You understand the grim reality of a colonial summer and an unembalmed body. You understand the sweet, cloying smell that begins to creep from under the door after the first day. The way it clings to the curtains, the desperate need to get the source of that smell into a wooden box and under 6 feet of earth as quickly as possible. This isn't about dignity for the deceased anymore. This is about pest control. I have the pine, you say, your mind already racing. You do have it. A stack of rough sawn planks in the back. Not the best quality. A few knots, but it will do. It will have to do. The cost. And here it comes. The part you dread most, the negotiation. There's no price tag. There's no menu. There's no Venmo request. It's a delicate, high-stakes dance of social standing, perceived value, and pure desperation. For a simple pine box, you begin trying to calculate the cost of the wood, the cost of the nails, which you'll have to get from the blacksmith, who will charge you double because he knows you're in a hurry, the cost of the candles you'll have to burn to work through the night, and the cost of your own exhaustion. How do you put a price on that? 12 shillings, you say, holding your breath. You've aimed high. Maybe too high, the man scoffs. It's not a loud sound, just a short, sharp puff of air through his nostrils. It's a sound of pure contempt. 12 shillings for a few planks of pine? That's robbery. It's the labor, sir, you explain, your voice tight. To have it done by morning requires me to work through the night and the materials. The materials are trees he cuts you off. God gives us trees for free. 12 shillings is an insult. You want to tell him that God doesn't saw the trees into planks. God doesn't plane them smooth. God doesn't hammer the nails until his wrist feels like it's going to shatter. But you don't. You can't. He's a gentleman, and you are a tradesman. This is the unspoken rule. He holds the power. What would you consider a fair price, you ask, and you hate the weakness in your own voice. He strokes his chin, performing the role of a man giving the matter serious thought. He already has a number in his head. He's just making you wait for it. 8 shillings. 8. That's barely enough to cover your costs. You'd be working all night for essentially nothing. For the privilege of his business. Your stomach clenches. This is the part of the job that grinds you down more than any hand plane. The constant gnawing humiliation of having to beg for the value of your own sweat. Sir, with respect, I cannot do it for 8 shillings. Then I will find another carpenter. It's a bluff. You know it, and he knows you know it. The only other carpenter in town is Old Man Hemlock, who is so riddled with arthritis he can barely hold a hammer, and so fond of rum he's likely to build the coffin in the shape of a trapezoid. But the threat hangs in the air between you. It's a reminder of your place. You are replaceable. This is where the real currency comes in. Not shillings, not pounds, but barter, obligation, the tangled, messy web of colonial economics. I cannot do 8 shillings in coin, you say carefully, but perhaps we can come to an arrangement. His eyes light up, just a little. Ah, now you're speaking his language. Coin is scarce, especially good, solid English coin. Most of what passes for money is a chaotic jumble of Spanish dollars, Portuguese Johannes, and flimsy paper notes printed by the colonial government, which might be worth 10 shillings today and 2 tomorrow. It's like trying to run a business using lottery tickets and Chuck E. Cheese tokens. Barter is king. An arrangement? He prompts. 6 shillings, you offer. and a cord of seasoned firewood delivered. You need the wood for your own hearth. Winter is never as far away as it seems. This is a good deal for him. He has woodcutters on his land. For him, firewood is an abstraction. For you, it's the difference between shivering through January and being merely cold. He considers it. You can see the gears turning in his head. He's calculating the value of the wood, the cost of having his man deliver it, versus the 4 shillings he'd be saving. This isn't a transaction. It's an algebra problem. A half cord, he counters. A full cord, you insist, finding a little sliver of backbone, or it's 10 shillings cash, your choice. You've pushed it, maybe too far. You watch his face, trying to read the subtle shift in his expression. His jaw tightens. For a moment, you think he's going to turn and walk out, leaving you with nothing but the fading light and the ache in your arm. Then he gives a short, sharp nod. Done. 6 shillings and a cord of wood, delivered by the end of the week. You feel a wave of something that is definitely not joy, but a profound, bone-deep exhaustion. You've won, if you can call it that. You've successfully negotiated the right to destroy your body for the next 15 hours in exchange for a handful of coins and a pile of logs. Congratulations, you're a successful, small business owner. The coffin will be ready, you say, after sunrise. See that it is. He doesn't say thank you. He doesn't offer another word of condolence for your impending all-nighter. He just turns his expensive coat, swirling around him, and ducks back out into the evening light, leaving you once again in the gloom. The shadow is gone. You stand there for a long moment, listening to his footsteps fade away down the dirt track. The workshop feels different now. It's no longer just a place of work, it's a prison. You are on a deadline, a death line. You look over at the stack of pine in the corner. It's rough stuff, full of knots. One of the planks is slightly warped. It's going to fight you every step of the way. You walk over and run your hand over the coarse surface. It feels like petrified sandpaper. This is going to be a nightmare. You'll have to measure and saw by the flickering, unreliable light of a tallow candle, which will sputter and stink and cast dancing, monstrous shadows on the walls. The smell of hot wax and melting animal fat will mingle with the pine and your own sweat to create a truly unique potpourri of misery. Your stomach rumbles. You haven't eaten since midday, and that was just a hunk of stale bread and a slice of hard cheese that tasted faintly of the cellar it was stored in. There's a bit of stew left from last night, cold, congealed stew. That will be your fuel for the night. There's no time to go home. Your house is a quarter-mile away. That's a 20-minute walk you don't have. Your workshop is your world now, until the sun comes up. You pick up your saw. The handle is smooth and dark from years of sweat and friction. It feels like a part of you, an unwelcome, demanding part of you. You place the edge of the saw against the first pine plank, marking your cut. The teeth bite into the wood with a screech, and the work begins again. The light outside fades from gold to orange, then to a deep, bruised purple. The sounds of the day die down, replaced by the chirping of crickets and the lonely hoot of an owl. But you don't hear them. All you hear is the rhythmic rasp of your saw, the heavy thud of your hammer, and the frantic, desperate beat of your own heart, counting down the hours until morning. Every muscle screams. Your eyes burn from the sawdust and the candlelight. Your mind is a dull fog of exhaustion. You think about the 6 shillings. You think about the firewood. You think about the dead woman in the rich man's parlor, blissfully unaware of the trouble she's causing. And you think this is it. This is your life, a series of urgent tasks performed in pain for just enough reward to allow you to survive to perform the next one. There is no promotion. There is no retirement plan. There is only the wood and the tools and the endless etching work. And as you hammer the last nail into the simple pine box, just as the first gray hint of dawn touches the sky, you don't feel pride. You don't feel accomplishment. You just feel the hollow, empty relief of a man who has been granted a few hours' reprieve from his own damnation. The box is done. Now you just have to stay awake long enough to get paid. The shavings continue to peel away from the oak. Long, fragrant, papery curls of wood. They pile up around your feet, a soft, rustling mattress of your own making. Each pass of the plane is a full body movement. It's not a wrist flick. It's not an arm exercise. It is a prayer of force channeled from your legs up through your spine into your shoulders and down your arms, culminating in a single focused point of steel. You lock your elbows, lean your weight into it, and push. The blade bites. Thwack. The sound is satisfying for the first 10 minutes. After an hour, it is the metronome of your own personal hell. After 4 hours, you no longer hear it. It is just a vibration that travels up the tool, through your hands, and into the bones of your skull. It is the background noise of your life, the same way a low-grade fever is. You don't notice it until it's gone. And it is never gone. Your palms are not soft. They are leather. They are geography. Calluses rise like mountain ranges, crisscrossed by the valleys of old cuts and the riverbeds of scars. Every so often, a blister forms under one of the calluses, a hidden pocket of fluid and pain that has nowhere to go. It feels like a hot pebble has been surgically implanted under your skin. You work through it. You always work through it. Your knuckles are permanently swollen. The skin split and dry. Your fingernails are thick, yellowed, and packed with a permanent black crescent of grime, sawdust, and pine tar. No amount of scrubbing with lye soap will ever get them clean. They are the mark of your trade, a guild sign you wear on your own body. Let's talk about that tool in your hands, your plane. It is not a factory-made, perfectly calibrated instrument. You probably made the body of it yourself, from a block of impossibly hard hornbeam or beech, seasoned for years until it was as stable as stone. The blade, the iron, that was the expensive part. You bought that from a blacksmith, a piece of steel so precious you'd likely trade your second-best coat for it. You sharpen it constantly on a whetstone, spitting on the stone, working the edge back and forth, until you can shave the hair off your own arm with it. A dull tool is more dangerous than a sharp one. A dull tool requires more force, and when you apply that much force, and the tool slips, that's when you learn the true meaning of regret. You stop for a moment, not to rest. Rest is a luxury you can't afford. You stop to check your progress. You run your rough fingertips over the surface of the oak. It's getting there. It's moving from the coarse, splintery texture of the initial rib cut to something approaching smoothness. But it's not flat, not yet. You squint, lowering your head so your eye is level with the board, looking for the telltale shimmer of high spots. You see several hills in your wooden landscape that must be leveled, so you go back to it. Thwack. The sun, which felt so pleasant an hour ago, is now a malevolent spotlight. It streams through the single wavy glass window of your workshop, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. These aren't charming, magical dust motes. This is sawdust. It's a fine, gritty powder that coats everything. It's in your hair, it's in your eyebrows, it's lining your nostrils and the back of your throat. You've been breathing it in for years. Every so often you cough, a dry, hacking sound. You spit onto the floor, onto the bed of wood shavings. The gob of phlegm is thick and brown, flecked with tiny particles of wood. You have what they call carpenter's lung. It's just a thing that happens, like your bad back and your deaf ear. It's part of the compensation package. No one has invented the concept of personal protective equipment yet. Your face is your dust mask, your lungs, your air filter. And then it happens. It's not dramatic. It's not a moment of high action. It's a moment of fatigue, a lapse in concentration that lasts no longer than a heartbeat. On the push stroke, your left hand, the one guiding the front of the plane, slides just a fraction of an inch. The corner of the still sharp oak board, the one you haven't rounded over yet, catches the skin just below your thumb. It doesn't slice, it rips. A deep, ragged 3-inch gouge. For a second, there is no pain. There is only surprise. You stare at the wound, a clean white canyon in the grimy landscape of your hand. Then the canyon fills with red, a wellspring of dark, thick blood that overflows and begins to snake down your wrist in warm rivulets. Now the pain arrives, a hot, searing guest. It screams up your arm. You curse, a short, guttural word. You drop the plane onto the workbench with a clatter. Blood drips from your fingertips onto the clean, smooth surface you've just spent an hour creating. Perfect, crimson circles on pale oak. Another job made longer. What's your next move? Do you call for help? There's no one to call for. Do you dial 911? That number is a meaningless sequence of curves. Do you run to the medicine cabinet for a sterile bandage and some antiseptic cream? Let's take a look in your medicine cabinet. It's a wooden box on a shelf. Inside, you have a small stained bottle of turpentine. Good for cleaning pitch off your hands. And some people say it's good for wounds. Other people say it'll kill you. It's a 50-50 shot. You have a lump of beeswax for sealing and polishing. You have a dried out bundle of yarrow, which your wife swears will stop bleeding. You also have a small flask of rum. This is your most reliable medical supply. Your first aid protocol is as follows. First, you pour a little of the rum directly into the wound. The pain that follows is biblical. It's a supernova of agony that makes the initial cut feel like a pleasant tickle. It's a white-hot chemical fire that seems to burn straight through your bones. Your vision whites out for a second. You gasp, sucking in a lungful of sawdust-choked air. This isn't for sterilization. You don't know what germs are. You have a vague concept of purifying the wound, but this is mostly about a sort of grim, puritanical trial by fire. Pain is cleansing after all, or so the preacher tells you. Second, you grab the nearest rag. It's the one you use to wipe grease and sweat off your tools. It's stiff with old grime and smells faintly of rancid oil. You press it hard against the cut. The rag immediately soaks through, turning a muddy, dark brown. You hold it there, applying pressure, your heart thudding against your ribs. The bleeding slows. It doesn't stop, but it slows to a sullen ooze. Now, for the bandage, you tear a strip from the same rag. You pack the wound with a wad of the yarrow leaves, crushed, dusty, and probably home to several generations of spider eggs. And then you wrap the strip of cloth around your hand as tightly as you can, knotting it with your teeth and your good hand. The finished product is a bulky, filthy poultice that throbs with a dull, insistent rhythm. You take a long pull from the rum flask. This one goes down your throat. It burns, but it's a good burn, a familiar burn. It settles in your stomach like a warm stone, and its tendrils of numbness begin to creep out through your body. The good news is you've stopped the bleeding. Now, the bad news is everything else. That rag wasn't clean. Your hand wasn't clean. The yarrow wasn't clean. The air itself isn't clean. You have just introduced a universe of bacteria into a deep open wound. In the next few days, you'll be watching that hand with a kind of primal terror. You'll be looking for the signs, the angry red streaks that travel up your arm, the swelling that makes your fingers look like fat sausages, the foul-smelling pus, the fever, an infection, blood poisoning, tetanus. You don't know these words, but you know their work. You've seen it. You've seen men lose fingers, hands, entire arms to a splinter. You've seen them die, babbling in a fever dream from a cut no bigger than this one. Your hand, your primary tool, your entire livelihood is now a ticking time bomb. Every throb is a reminder, but you can't stop working. This piece of oak is for a cradle, a rush job. A merchant's first son is due any day, and he wants the finest cradle in the colony. He's paying you well, or rather, he's not paying you in coin. He's giving you a line of credit at his store, equivalent to the price of 2 barrels of flour and a side of salted pork. You need that flour. Your own supply is running low, and it's full of weevils, so you pick up the plane again. It's awkward now. Your bandaged hand is clumsy and thick. You can't grip the tool properly. The pain is a constant, screaming distraction. But you adjust. You find a new way to hold it, a new way to push, using more of your shoulder and less of your arm. The work is slower. The quality suffers, but only you can tell. The shavings are shorter now, more brittle. The sound is less of a clean shh and more of a chattering scrape. Scrape, thump, scrape, thump. You work, your hand throbs. You sweat. The sweat soaks into the filthy bandage, adding yet another layer of potential infection. The rum has worn off, leaving you with a headache and a sour taste in your mouth. An hour later, the merchant himself appears in the doorway of your workshop. He doesn't knock. He just fills the space, blocking the light. He is a large man, soft in a way that you are not. His clothes are made of fine wool, not homespun linen. His shoes have buckles, a ridiculous, glorious extravagance. He smells of bay rum and money. He looks at the cradle, which is still in pieces on your floor. He frowns. "Still not done, Goodman?" he asks. His voice is smooth, accustomed to giving orders. You don't look up from your work. You can't afford to show weakness. You certainly don't show him your hand. That would be an admission of fallibility, a potential excuse he could use to dock your pay. "It will be done, Master Albright," you say, your voice flat. "Fine work takes time, It's the craftsman's universal defense. My son will not wait for fine work, he says, a sharp edge to his tone. He will arrive when he pleases. The cradle is to be delivered by tomorrow evening. As we agreed, he doesn't care about your process. He doesn't see the sweat, the skill, the blood. He sees a product, a deadline. He is the 18th century version of a project manager, and you are failing to meet your quarterly objectives. It will be there. You grunt, pushing the plane with a surge of angry energy. The blade chatters across a knot in the wood. A mistake. You'll have to fix that later. Albright sniffs, his nose wrinkling at the smell of your workshop. The sweat, the wood, the turpentine. He looks at the squalor, the dirt floor, the mess, with the detached curiosity of a man observing livestock. He has no idea that the oak he's standing on cost you a month's worth of labor felling and splitting. He just knows he bought the plank from a lumberman and expects you to turn it into an heirloom. See that it is, he says, and then he's gone, leaving behind a faint, mocking scent of prosperity. You stop and look at your hand. The bandage is soaked, the throbbing is worse. Tomorrow evening. That means you'll be working late by candlelight. Working by candlelight is a special kind of misery. The light is weak flickering and yellow. It casts long, dancing shadows that play tricks on your eyes. It's hard to see your marks. The risk of making a mistake, of cutting in the wrong place, of slicing your other hand open, increases tenfold. And the candles are made of tallow, rendered animal fat. As they burn, they release a thick, greasy smoke. The workshop, already stuffy, will fill with the smell of a cheap, burning steak. It's a nauseating odor that sticks to the back of your throat. Finish the planing. Finally, the surface is smooth, flat, and ready. Now for the joinery, mortises and tenons, the intricate bones that will hold this thing together. This requires saws, chisels, and mallets. It requires precision. Precision when your dominant hand feels like it's been smashed with a hammer, and your head is pounding from the dregs of the rum. You pick up a chisel. You place its razor-sharp edge against the wood. You raise the mallet with your good hand, and you hesitate. Every instinct is screaming at you. The fatigue, the pain, the dimming light. It's a recipe for disaster. One slip, one misplaced blow, and this chisel goes straight through the workpiece and into your leg. Or worse, you miss the chisel head entirely and smash your already injured hand. What choice do you have? You need that flour. You need that pork. Failure isn't an option. There is no disability insurance. There is no sick leave. There is only work, or there is starvation. It's a simple, brutal equation. So you take a breath. You wipe the sweat from your eyes with your shoulder because your hands are useless, and you bring the mallet down. Thwack! A perfect cut. You let out the breath you were holding. One down, a few dozen more to go. The sun sets. The world outside your workshop door turns a deep, bruised purple. You light the tallow candles. The greasy, sickening smell fills the air. The shadows leap and writhe on the walls. It feels like working in a cave. You work. The hours crawl by. Your back is a solid sheet of pain. Your knees ache from kneeling on the hard-packed earth. Your stomach is a hollow pit. You haven't eaten since midday, and that was just a hunk of dry bread and some hard cheese. And your hand is a universe of agony. The throbbing has a voice now. It whispers to you. It tells you to stop. It tells you that something is wrong. You finish the last tenon around what you guess is midnight. You fit the pieces together. They slide into place with the satisfying friction of a job well done. Even in the flickering gloom, you can see that it's good work. The cradle is strong. It will hold the merchant's son. It will likely hold his son's son. It is a piece of you that will outlive you by a century. A small, silent monument to a single day of misery. You extinguish the candles. The sudden, total darkness is a relief. The silence is a balm. You stand there for a moment in the black, smelling the phantom stench of burnt fat and the clean scent of oak. You stumble out of your workshop and into the night. The moon is out. It's bright enough to see the path to your house. A small, dark shape a few yards away. You push open the door. The house is one room. It smells of stale cooking, sleeping bodies, and the ever-present hint of the chamber pot in the corner. Your wife and 2 children are asleep on a straw mattress on the floor. You can hear your youngest wheezing in his sleep. Another winter cough that just won't go away. There is no bed for you. You are too dirty. You would soil the one good blanket. You collapse onto a pile of sacks near the hearth. Your bed is a lumpy collection of coarse burlap. There is no pillow. You use your own arm, the good one. You lie there, fully clothed, your boots still on. The floor is cold and hard. You can feel a draft coming from somewhere. You lie there and you listen. You listen to the wheezing of your son. You listen to the scuttling of mice in the walls. You listen to the frantic, painful thumping of your own heart, broadcast through the wound in your hand. You close your eyes. You pray. You don't pray for wealth, or for happiness, or for an easier life. Those are abstract concepts, luxuries for men like Albright. You pray that the red streaks don't appear on your arm in the morning. You pray that your son's cough doesn't get worse. You pray for the strength to get up in a few hours and do this all over again. And now, let's pull back. You are not this man. You are sitting in a comfortable chair. You are breathing clean, filtered air. The most strenuous thing you've done all day is maybe carry some groceries or sit through a boring meeting. Your hands are soft. If you get a cut, you will wash it with soap and water from a tap, apply a sterile cream from a tube, and cover it with a bandage designed to keep it clean. The thought of it getting infected to the point of amputation is so remote, it's absurd. It's the plot of a horror movie, not a plausible Tuesday afternoon. You have light at the flick of a switch. You have heat at the turn of a dial. If you are hungry, you have a refrigerator full of food from all over the world, preserved and safe. The greatest danger it poses is to your waistline. If you feel a pain, a cough, a fever, you have access to a universe of medicine that would have seemed like divine magic to the carpenter. You have drugs that can stop infections, soothe the pain, and cure diseases that were, for him, a death sentence. His life was a tightrope walk over a pit of oblivion with no safety net. His days were a relentless grind of physical labor, pain, and anxiety. His pleasures were small, fleeting, and often dangerous. His world was circumscribed by the distance he could walk in a day, his knowledge limited by what he could hear and see. We romanticize it. We look at the beautiful handmade cradle, and we see authenticity. We see craftsmanship. We see a simpler time. We don't see the blood on the wood. We don't smell the infected rag. We don't feel the terror of a fever in the night. We don't understand the brutal calculus of survival that guided his every move. His life wasn't simpler. It was harder in every conceivable dimension. So the next time you find yourself frustrated, the next time you complain that your Wi-Fi is slow, or your coffee is cold, or you have to sit in traffic for 20 minutes, I want you to take a moment. Think of the carpenter. Think of him lying on a burlap sack on a cold floor, his hand throbbing, listening to the mice in the walls, praying to a silent God for nothing more than the chance to survive until sunrise. He would have traded his immortal soul for your worst day. Remember that.